Hello everybody, I'm Andy Lagopus and welcome back to It's Called a Podcast, Sweetheart. With me today is, as always,
PinkStar, so nice to be here once again for the monthly podcast.
Yep, and I'm glad to be here too, despite my voice sounding really scratchy and such. It is because I am sick, woo!
Oh no.
Yeah, unfortunately, but I'm still here and still doing the podcast with you, so yeah.
But try not to talk too much this time.
Well, I mean, that's the whole point of a podcast. It's so that, we can talk about
I know,
stuff.
yes, but I mean, usually you're the more talkative one on the episode, so I'll try to take the lead here.
All right, that sounds good to me. That sounds good to me.
Okay. Well, it's already April, so by the time this episode is released, fortunately, hopefully, it's going to be coming out the new Zootopia 2 trailer. Hopefully, I'm not sure if it's released yet.
Yeah, there's some speculation on whether or not it'll be released at CinemaCon. So, who knows? I have not heard anything at time of recording, but hopefully there's a new trailer, and if there is, our reaction will already be up. So
yeah, it will be completely, well, I wasn't sure it will be a blind reaction as in watching it for the first time, because probably we'll have watched it while recording the episode, but oh well.
Well, we'll do what we can.
Yeah, we'll figure it out if the trailer comes out by April 3rd. Apparently it's going to come out that day, but let's hope. Let's just hope.
Yeah, the rumor is that Disney will show it off at CinemaCon, which we don't know, but it's a fairly good guess. So if there is a trailer, yay. If there's not, nothing's changed, you know?
Yeah, the only thing is that there's the tiny possibility that the movie gets delayed again, like with the first movie.
Who knows? Maybe it'll come out the same day as the first movie. That'd be interesting. Exactly 10-year difference.
Yep, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Yes, we will. And speaking of the first movie, that's what we're talking about today, right?
Yes.
I mean, I guess we're always kind of talking about the first movie, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Technically, it's the only original material we have so far, but we still have to wait for the sequel.
Zootopia Plus as well, and the comics.
Oh, well, yes. But it's the main source of everything.
Yes, it is where we get the majority of the stuff we talk about.
Yeah. What will we be talking about? It's how Zootopia became a massive success, not just in the US, but internationally speaking. And it's funny considering that, well, let's go back to what Disney is. Let's go back. Disney, it's very well known for its animated musical features.
Mm-hmm. From the very beginning, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Yeah, and from there we have many films that are musicals. Of course, the Disney Princess franchise, almost all of them are musicals, practically. But some may be in the traditional way that they are musical, and some more or less. But there are still other films that are also musicals among the Disney franchise, which what is pretty well known. But Zootopia, it's kind of a different deal here, because one thing we have with Zootopia that is related to music, technically, the only thing we have as music, basically speaking, is Try Everything, and it's a song that we know that exists in the Zootopia universe.
Right. And the soundtrack, of course.
Yeah, the soundtrack, that it's very much attached to the story about how it's very well produced, that it connects with the emotions that the characters are feeling throughout the story. How Judy feels at the scene, how Nick feels, the environment they're surrounded in, and such.
Yes, but all movies have a soundtrack.
Exactly.
Not all movies are musicals, though.
And that's the topic, talking about how Zootopia became a success without being a musical. It's practically been something out of the box, but not entirely because we have other stories that are not musicals. Like, for instance, now that
Yeah.
the live action movie with Lilo and Stitch, technically speaking, it's not a musical
Well, the
either.
original wasn't a musical either.
It's not a musical, but it has a lot of songs featured in the movie. That's the thing.
Right. Same with, like, Disney's got, like, they are known for their musicals, but they aren't only known for their musicals.
Yes.
So
Other
even the movie that came out right before Zootopia, Big Hero 6, that wasn't a musical either.
Yeah, also Wreck-It Ralph. It's not. It's also another. It's not a musical either. But
Yep.
what's the big
Or a
difference?
Byron Howard movie, Bolt.
Yeah,
Bolt wasn't.
it only has an ending song, kind of like Zootopia. Well, technically, all films have an ending song, but that in a way or another, it may be featured in the movie. Perhaps as in a montage scene or whatever. But the thing here is what makes Zootopia different than the rest of these movies that are also non-musicals, because they are also very well known and also very well cherished by the people who watch these movies. But I don't know, I think but personally I feel that Zootopia reached another level about its success that
Yeah.
I don't know. Like for instance, with Bolt, the thing is that not a lot of people know about this movie. Like I feel like it's very well. It's how I forgot the word.
It's underrated.
Underrated, exactly. Thank you. It's an underrated film. Not many people know about Bolt.
Right. But I would say that movies like Big Hero 6 or Wreck-It Ralph, those are very well respected. But you are right that the movies that tend to do the best for Disney tend to be their musicals, such as Frozen or Tangled or Moana,
Yes.
which came out right the same year as Zootopia.
Yeah, in around the same decade, the 2010s. Around that
Yep, they
decade.
both came out in 2016.
Oh yeah, that too.
Yeah.
And the big deal here for Disney as a franchise in general was Moana being a Disney princess film, a musical, and also because it had Lin-Manuel Miranda as the composer for the songs.
Right, and that was him at the height of the popularity post Hamilton.
Yeah, so everything was put on Moana. That it was going to be such a breakthrough film again for the Disney Princess franchise. And while it did well, and currently, well, a sequel was released, and there have been a lot of mixed reactions to it. So yeah.
Well, we could go into that a bit if you'd like, but we're here to talk about Zootopia mostly, and Moana, it did very well for itself. I believe it made around 600 million in the box office total
Yep.
during its original run, but Zootopia made over 1 billion.
Yeah, and
The first Disney movie to do so, not Marvel or anything, but the first Disney animated movie to do so since Frozen.
Yes, and it wasn't been a long time ago in back then. Like it was 3 years apart because Frozen was released in 2013. But
Yeah.
again, the difference is that Frozen is a musical, Zootopia is not.
And it's based on the Snow Queen, and it's a pre-existing like story and property and such, whereas Zootopia is wholly original.
Entirely original. Even if
No
Frozen,
matter what Gary Goldman says.
and even if if the movie of Frozen story, it's technically different from the Snow Queen, but it still
Oh,
has
it's heavily adapted, but it's still based on it.
exactly. And Zootopia is entirely original from the get-go.
Which is a lot riskier for the House of Mouse.
Yes, it's been a long time ago since Disney has released something entirely original.
Yeah, previously it was Wreck-It Ralph, I believe, was their last wholly original movie before Zootopia.
Yeah, technically Moana doesn't have a story entirely to
It's
based
based on
on
it's based
culture.
on general culture and Polynesian myths and legends, but not
Yes.
any specific myth or legend.
That will be because usually almost all Disney princess stories are based on a children's story, but in Moana was different that are like you said legends and myths, but it's a kind of like a compilation of many things around the Polynesian culture, but not something entirely specific. But it still has a base technically.
Yeah, Maui is not an original Disney character. He is a figure in actual Polynesian mythology, for
Yeah,
example.
which is all again also very different with Zootopia. That the only thing that we can say that it's based on is that it's our current society. That it's only switching from humans to anthropomorphic mammals. That's it.
Yeah, it's an original setting based on modern society.
Kind of similar with what Pixar films do sometimes, and that's funny enough. Many people have thought that Zootopia is a Pixar film rather than a Disney film.
Well, Pixar was involved in its development quite heavily.
Yeah, because usually, again, Disney is pretty well known because most of their stories are based on a children's story or something similar like that. While with Pixar, it's almost an entire different concept for a movie.
Yeah, Cars isn't based on anything in particular, or The Incredibles is just based on superheroes in general, but nothing specific. It's
Yeah.
all original stuff. In fact, I don't think Pixar has done any adaptations of a pre existing work, have they?
No, like we can say that they take,
Except their own.
yeah, like they have concepts that are technically similar, like animal speaking, toy speaking, because I think there have been already other animated either series, shorts, or whatever that where toys do speak.
Oh,
But
yeah, yeah, for sure. Like Raggedy Ann and Andy, The Island of Misfit Toys from Rudolph, like all sort. It's a classic trope, you know?
yeah, but they did something entirely different with Toy Story about how the story is built, the characters development, and so that's what makes it different.
The classic joke is when it comes to Pixar coming up with stories, it's point at a thing. What if that had emotions?
Yes.
Point at your car. What if cars had feelings? Point at toys. What if toys had feelings? Point at bugs. What if bugs had feelings?
Finding Nemo. What
What if
about
fish had feelings?
well I call this I call the creatures from the ocean in general.
Aquatic creatures? Yeah.
Aquatic creatures, yes, because well it's not only fish, but yeah, you get the
Yeah, yeah.
idea.
What if sea creatures had feelings? Yeah.
In Wally, what if robots had feelings?
In Brave, what if the Scottish had feelings? I'm joking, I'm joking, I'm joking. Eventually, it even gets to what if feelings had feelings with Inside Out?
Yes. Now that I think about it, Rape is not based on any story from what we
No,
know.
it's not.
And we can say that technically, well, should Brave count as part of the Disney franchise because of Merida? I don't know.
Well, it's Pixar's attempt at it, and
It's not a musical either.
yeah, as they pointed out in Wreck-It Ralph 2, she's from another studio.
Yes. Yeah, and technically it's also not a it's also a non-musical, so yeah.
Yeah, Pixar is more known for the non-musicals and the original stories and such, so it is understandable that people might mistake Zootopia for a Pixar movie.
Yes. I think the only exception will be Coco. But the difference is that originally, while Coco was kind of like with the idea of being a musical, at the end the idea was dropped. Instead, the music is part of the story. We hear the characters singing, but not as if it were a musical, it's as if they were just performing.
Right. Right.
So that was what makes it different from being a musical entirely. Because they're not singing about their feelings or whatever to express their emotions. No, they're just like,
There's a word for it, actually. It's called being diegetic. That means that the characters in the setting are actively experiencing the music as well.
yes,
Because, like, for example, Judy in Zootopia is actively listening to Try Everything as she goes into the city. And it's
Yes.
playing and the audience hears it and whatnot, but that she's listening to it. Whereas in Frozen, yeah, the characters are singing their hearts out, but that it's understood that that's not necessarily how the characters are experiencing it. Like, it's a step away from the grounded universe they're in, you know?
Exactly. Like in
It's
most
hard to explain, but
yeah,
like the characters are acting and expressing themselves, and eventually it boils to a point where they just have to sing their hearts out, but not necessarily in universe, if that makes sense.
exactly. And going along with the idea, well, yes, like and here we see it more as a traditional what a traditional movie will be. Like we just see the characters with their expressions. That's the big advantage that Zootopia has. The characters are very well expressed through their faces. When their
Hmm.
eyes are popping out, how they
Well,
move their
most
mouths.
Disney movies have that too,
I
you
know,
know?
yes, but I feel like Zootopia specifically, it's very expressive with its characters.
It is, but I don't know. I feel like it had a lot more going against it rather than simply just the fact that it wasn't a musical, though.
I don't know, yes,
Oh,
I know that, but okay, I want to give its merit in this case that while in the musicals we see them express their emotions through singing and whatever, a big thing that Zootopia has is that with the way they move their faces, their for instance with Judy, that when we see her with her ears drooped down, we know she's sad. I don't know where their eyebrows, how they move, how their jaws dropped, and whatever. That's part of how also they we know how they are. We see them how they feel and everything without necessarily be having a song in the middle of the story.
perhaps, yeah. I mean, there is quite a bit of nonverbal communication through Zootopia, like a lot of body language and such.
Yes.
I don't think any of that really explains why Zootopia was such a massive hit, though. Let's take a look back at what it had to go up against. So,
What were the feature films at the time that Zootopia was released?
well, that's the thing. Like, it was released in March. March is normally what studios consider to be a dump month, where they throw out a bunch of movies that they don't expect to do as well, like the more experimental stuff, because it's not around Christmas or Thanksgiving or any major holidays that kids get off from school. It's not in the summer where there's plenty of, like, if you're going after a demographic of mainly children like Disney tends to, March is not the best time to release a movie. So Zootopia only saw what, like 75 million on its opening weekend, which is respectable, but it's still nothing compared to, say, Frozen 2's opening weekend,
Yes.
which I'd have to look it up, but it was,
Usually it's released in November.
hang on. Yeah, Frozen 2 made 228 million in its opening weekend. That is a lot.
Yeah, it's really difficult to compare. Also because also Frozen Two has had a lot of expectation ever since it was also officially confirmed.
Right. But again, though, like, that is a massive opening weekend, whereas Zootopia, 75.1 million. Which, okay, it's the biggest non Pixar Disney animated opening at the time, but it's still nothing compared to what they would have expected had it come out in November, like it was originally intended to.
I think what I believe because this was also something I covered on in a note for ZNN that a big part of it was the marketing Zootopia had prior to the release because it was such an unconventional marketing strategy that we don't usually see in other with other movies.
Well, what marketing strategy?
That's the thing. We
Yeah.
rarely get to see it. But the thing is that because Zootopia it's a mirror to our society, that's why they went to with the with the marketing, trying to make it seem similar to our society. Like we're like Zootopians are just like us, and so on. And it wasn't too on the nose like usually Disney tends to do with its other films.
I guess I'm curious what you mean by that because I didn't really see much marketing for Zootopia at the time. It mainly relied on word of mouth marketing and discussion, which is very unusual for a Disney movie. They usually go all out on their marketing.
Yeah, let me see.
Like they mostly relied on in-theater trailers and had some very few TV spots. Like there were some social media campaigns, but they were nothing compared to what came later, you know?
Yeah, that's what I'm referring to. That it wasn't too on the nose like usually Disney tends to do.
You mean like in your face?
Yes, as in they're not bombarding you with new material for the movie. Like I once
Yeah,
tried
true.
to check out how many Zootopia trailers there were for each country, and all of them were pretty different from each other. Because the thing also with Zootopia, you know what's also different? Because Zootopia had a determined story, it cannot be too spoiled on trailers, because otherwise the
Yeah,
story it's ruined.
that is a very good point. They did a good job of not spoiling the movie in the trailers, which so many trailers do nowadays, and I hate it.
Yeah, the thing with Zootopia is that they had to be very careful on what to show to the audience to engage them to watch the movie that wouldn't spoil everything that was happening. Like, if we see the trailers, we see that the slot scene is featured a lot because it doesn't ruin the story itself.
Yeah, it's a very safe scene to show everyone to kind of like explain what the movie's about, you know?
Exactly. They had to be pretty careful, or maybe parts of where Judy is just first arriving to the city, where they are maybe traveling at some places and whatever, but they had to be careful there and also not to say specific lines.
And they definitely didn't show us anything from after the after the
The press
they didn't
conference.
show us anything from after the press conference scene. Yes, thank you.
Like I said, it was a pretty much unconventional marketing strategy.
Yeah, it really was. Now that I think about it, like one of their biggest ones was the Vine celebrity Zach King.
Yes.
You know, the guy who does all the really crazy illusions and camera manipulation tricks, you know?
Yes. And we can also see it on the movie. We can see this character again too.
Yeah, he has a one-line cameo, which is kind of cool. I would love to get one of those as well, but you never, you know?
That would be really
But they
nice. But
recreated one of his more famous vines in Zootopia.
yes.
And oh my goodness, I miss Vine. But it's like the advertisements were ads for both Zootopia and another actual product, like
Yes.
Google Photos or Uber.
Yeah, because like again, like it was mentioned before, like Zootopians are practically like us in their world. So yeah, that's the thing to show how similar their universe is to ours.
Yeah. And granted, it worked, but it was a lot more subtle than Disney usually is.
Exactly. Like you said, the big deal here was word of mouth that people started to recommend them and we like, hey, it's really good. You should go watch it. And
And there was a lot of repeat watches.
yes, that
Like
too.
I've said before, I personally went to go see it 7 times.
Yes, like those who really love the movie, they went to go to theaters once again. And for instance,
And deliberately brought friends to go see it again.
yes, but what I was referring to is that China was also a huge part of why also Zootopia became a success.
Oh yeah.
Back then, Zootopia became the most animated, the animated movie that most
Highest grossing.
the highest grossing animated in China back then. Like today is nowadays it's not. But back then it was a huge deal that a non-Chinese animated film was the highest grossing one in China. That people in Asian audiences really loved Zootopia.
Yeah, absolutely. And they still do. And Disney's really focused on that as well.
Yeah.
There's a reason the Zootopia land is in Disneyland Shanghai.
Yes, and how come the you can see Nick and Judy constantly on the Disney parks? Not also there, but also at Hong Kong Disneyland and Tokyo Disneyland.
Whereas in America, their meet and greets kind of here and there.
Yes, it's not their future, but not as much as fans will love to. Like that's also an interesting thing. Usually, a Disney movie will be pretty much its popularity. It will be in the U.S. While in Zootopia, its success it's more international than from its home country.
And I mean, I don't know. Oh, I'm still not entirely sure what about it really clicked, like with that particular market, just because I'm not part of that market. But I can totally understand people loving Zootopia.
Yes, like the characters are very well developed. You can really feel connected to them.
Yeah, exactly. And Disney definitely underestimated the movie's appeal to adults.
Yes, and that's also another big thing that the movie had it going, that it was appealing for both kids and adults.
Which isn't to say that other movies of theirs aren't appealing for adults, but like I feel like Zootopia is one of their few movies where adults get more out of it than a kid would.
Yeah, because maybe a joke will fly over the kid's head, but an adult can get it. Like,
We are
hey,
good at multiplying.
that, or references to other franchises or films. Like when we get to see Mr. Big, like we see the whole environment, like, hey, this is the Godfather. A kid will not know because they haven't watched The Godfather.
Yeah, or Walter and Jesse and Doug. It's like you're literally throwing out Breaking Bad references. I am not going to expect a 5-year-old or 8-year-old to have seen Breaking Bad. And if they have, I have questions for the kids' parents.
Like those kind of subtle hints here and there, you can it really it's very appealing for a more grown up audience, and it really keeps us like engaged to it.
Well, not only that, but the message of the movie is more aimed at adults. It's more aimed at people who are living in today's world and have to deal with prejudice and discrimination and everything of that sort. Stuff that kids are often oblivious to.
Yes,
Hopefully oblivious to, you know?
perhaps they were embedding too much on the movie also because of the topic about someone becoming a police officer, because we know that it's a topic that it can be quite complicated, at least in the
Yeah.
US, I think. But if we think about it in retrospective, it's more an important deal today than when it was first released.
Yeah.
This makes me go back to think the one of the previous episodes when we had one our featured guest talking about Judy's morality throughout the film.
Right, with Professor Holmes,
Yes.
which was a very good episode that has not gotten nearly as much like viewership as it should. You should go watch it after this.
Oh yes, exactly. What I'm trying to refer to is that we really get to make a and through an analysis of Judy's actions through the film, you can listen to it later on. But yeah, it's maybe it's part of the reason why perhaps back then people weren't too sure if watching the movie or not. Perhaps, well, I'm not entirely sure.
Well, not only that, but it's one of the like Disney movies that the main character is not a kid, is not a teenager. Judy is 24. Nick is 32. Like these are young adults,
Yes, that's true.
and it really resonates with young adults.
We get to see different sides of their story, like with Judy being the newcomer in Zootopia, getting to experience everything for the first time, arriving to a new place, starting a job out of her. I'll call this
Like away from her family and in a new space. Yeah.
Then her environment is totally different from what she has lived throughout her life.
Right, and that's not something kids can necessarily relate to. Like, I would not have been able to relate to the scene where Judy FaceTimes her parents if I had not, like, had similar conversations with my parents while I was off at college.
Well, it's very rare for Disney films to have young adults as protagonists. Like there are some of a few, but they're more leading from late teens.
Yeah,
Like for instance, with Tangled, Rapunzel is barely 18 years old.
right. Flynn is a few years older, but not much. Like, I'm trying to think back, like, Big Hero 6, the main character is a teenager.
Yes,
Frozen, like, Elsa is a little bit older, but Anna is a teenager.
late teen, I think. I don't remember
Yeah.
what. I think
I don't
she
remember how,
was
17 or 16, 17 or 18, somewhere in that
kind of.
range. I don't remember. Tell us in the comments how we screwed up basic Disney knowledge.
But yeah, Anna's pretty young where the movie starts, but also because her environment was very different. That's also the part of it. Like the environment the characters have to go through is different, and that we in the case of Zootopia, where like once again it's a mirror to our society because
Exactly.
that's also a thing that also connects that. Well, but we're talking about how the characters they feel real. Like they are mammals, but they feel very human to us.
And tell me, have you ever heard of a film having legs?
Not that I think of.
Okay, so a movie is described as having legs when it doesn't have the biggest opening, but it more than makes up for it over a long period of time, and has like a big word of mouth and a big showing outside of the initial box office.
Oh yes, I will call that a sleeper hit. Musically speaking, I will call it a sleeper hit. It becomes more popular as time goes on.
Right. So Zootopia is probably one of the leggiest movies I've ever seen. Like, people love it and still talk about it 9 years later. We're talking about it now. Like, we've got a whole podcast and a website based around it 9 years later. Like, not many movies have that.
Yes.
Most movies, like, you go see it when it comes out, you think about it a little bit, and then you kind of forget about it.
Yeah, we're not. I'm not saying that Zootopia wasn't successful when it was first released, but I think it does
No,
fit.
it made $1 billion in the box office, but it took time to get that way.
That's what I'm referring to. Like when it was first released, as in opening night, it was not like we mentioned previously. It was not like a massive success right away, but it started building up. That's why I'm saying that it is a sleeper hit. That as word of mouth, there were got about the movie that hey you should
Yeah.
go watch it. They were recommended the movie and everything.
Yeah. And reviews and such, it's probably one of Disney's best rated and best reviewed movies of all time.
Yes,
Like, 99 on Rotten Tomatoes only came down to a 98.
that's
That
tough.
is crazy impressive for any movie,
Yes,
let alone a Disney film.
that's why the stakes are pretty high for the sequel.
Yeah, you don't say.
Yeah, like
Like,
we are very like as much as we love the idea of a sequel, it also makes us nervous that is it going to be as good or better or it will be the tragic sequel curse that it will turn out really bad.
Moana had a 95% rating, and Moana 2 has a 61% rating. Like, we don't want to see a drop like that.
Yes. And for instance, with Ralph Breaks
No
the
offense to anyone who
Internet,
made Moana 2, but
and well, Ralph Breaks the Internet, while it was a moderate success, it doesn't hold up like in the first film.
right. Like, Ralph Breaks the Internet had. Oh. Actually, looking at it, it's got a higher rating than the first.
It does? I
Yeah,
personally
an
think.
88 versus an 87 on the first one.
I personally feel that first film is better.
But then there's also kind of the elephant in the room of the last movie Disney released, Wish.
Ah, yes, Wish.
That one's sitting at a 48%.
That's tough. Along with Strange World. Strange World, too.
Oh, right, I forgot about Strange World, which is part of the problem. Like, so, yeah, so,
Disney has been failing a lot lately. That's our biggest fear. That will also happen to Zootopia too. We really don't want that
no.
because we really have also high hopes because most of the original team is developing the sequel. So that's why we have hope that it will turn out good.
Yes, exactly. And I am confident in the Disney team that they can pull this off.
Yes, we really are hoping for that.
And I'm hoping that they have a bit more merchandising than they did for the first one. Is let's be real, they did not expect Zootopia to do as well as it did.
Yes.
At least it appears to be that way. Like, they put it in the dead month of the year after, well, I'm very sure that they weren't sure how well a movie based around like complex social metaphors would work, you know?
Yes.
They weren't sure how well it would appeal to demographics of all sorts. They were definitely caught off guard by the amount of viewers, of adult viewers, I mean, and it had no built-in fan base or established characters to guarantee anything. It was a risk for them.
And totally. And also, well, I will say that the merch will have to be more expand on it, but mainly in the US. But
Take some notes from Disney Japan.
in general, East Asia, because they have a lot of merch. In Korea, China, they have tons of merch.
We could do a whole episode on the Zootopia merch that is exclusive to East Asia that we never got in the States or the Americas.
Yeah, or for instance, in Japan, there's this kind of like deal where they put out some seasonal cafes, and there's a Zootopia. There has been Zootopia cafes in Tokyo for
Yeah. And I would absolutely go to those if I could.
yes, and because they build it from zero, where you see everything with Zootopia theme, and it looks amazing.
Yeah.
It would be really cool if we could have that in the US at least.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
In general, I think that Zootopia it's a very well loved movie. That it's I still think it's pretty amazing that for being a non-musical, it's still well known to the audiences in general, and they really have a huge love for it. Even nowadays, when I see, sometimes I get to catch either a reaction because there are people who haven't watched Zootopia at all, and there are this popular thing that we can see now on YouTube where people react to a movie or a series for the first time, and usually, if not every time, someone watches Zootopia for the first time, they end up loving the movie.
Yeah, I haven't met anyone who hates it.
Yeah, it's pretty rare to think that Zootopia it's not well liked in general. I don't think so.
No.
Well, obviously, what we have I have seen that people are interested in the how it was made, and people like the idea for what we talked previously about having a more darker theme to it. They would have loved to see that on the movie, but yeah, we already explored about everything, all that stuff, of why it didn't work out. But yeah.
And I don't fault them for trying something new for it. I think it worked for what it was, but at the end of the day, the movie stood on its own with no real outside support.
Yes.
Or, well, not no outside support. You know what I mean. Very little work was needed to make it a success versus other movies that would need a lot more of a push to get it to where Zootopia is.
Yes.
And I mean, it won an Oscar. It won like
Annie
best
Awards.
animated films. So many awards. And it was going up against some really tight competition. And
That's true.
wasn't Into the Spider-Verse the same year?
No, no.
No, that was 2018.
The
You're right.
biggest movie back then was Kubo and the Two Strings from Leica Studios.
Right. And you know what? That is a dang good film. And like, if
Yes.
Zootopia was not on the same docket, I would have voted for it had I been allowed to vote for it.
Yeah,
You know?
Kimi no Nawa or Your Name was also released in 2016.
Oh, that was also so good.
A Makoto Shinkai film, yes.
2016 was a great year for animated movies.
Yeah, it was pretty nice, yes. And we still don't know today what other animated films will be featured on theaters on 2025. We still, well, at least I don't know what other films. So we don't know what competition Zootopia will have this year.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Because in the most recent Oscars that were the Oscars 2025, if we see the list of the nominations for animated film, all those movies were pretty good. Memories of a Snail, Wild Robot,
Oh, right. Yes.
and to having Flow, a movie where it's practically a silent film. We just see the expressions of the cats and everything here. It's like,
And on a tiny, tiny budget comparatively.
yes,
What was it, like $4 million dollars versus like every Disney movie's 150 million?
yeah, exactly. Only using Blender and with such a also small staff working on
From a
it.
guy who, like, well, okay, he did work in the animation industry, but like, it was basically his first major movie.
Exactly. Well, Inside Out 2 was also nominated. Like, they were very, all the nominations were pretty good.
Yeah.
They
But
all
Flow
solid
was an
films.
indie, so.
An indie
And
film,
that
yes.
beat out Inside Out too. Like, that is crazy.
Yeah, was almost sure that Wild Robot was going to win, being a DreamWorks film.
Yeah.
But yeah, like if we have other films such as Good in this 2025, well, Zootopia and that will have a tough competition. Zootopia 2, I mean.
Yeah.
So we don't know if it will have how you call this, a back-to-back award. We don't know. So we have to wait back until
Yeah.
it's released. But why it can't be November yet?
I know, right? Hopefully we get something in early April. So
Let's see.
if we do, we will have that to talk about.
Yeah, and
We'll probably do a special episode if that comes out.
yeah, if a little not to our past selves, if we have already watched the trailer when this episode released, like yeah, Zootopia 2 will be amazing. So yes, I think that will be it. I'm pretty sure there will be another details it can be discussed. Also, you can also mention what will be your opinion, your point of view of why Zootopia was a huge success, being a non-musical animated film. You can leave it in the comments.
Yes, please do. And please don't forget to check out our Patreon, patreon.com/ZNN. We are still trying to, well, our hosting costs have raised, so yeah. Let us know if you have any ideas of what we could do for Patreon supporters as well. We want to give back to you guys, but we kind of at a loss, so... Well, not really at a loss. We've been brainstorming, but we haven't really settled on anything, so let us know your ideas down in the comments.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes. And again, also don't forget to check out Zootopia News Network itself. We cover all the news as it comes out and share the amazing things this fandom has created. And we're now celebrating our 9th birthday, so woo!
Oh, nice. 9 years going strong.
Yep.
It's 10 more years. 10 more years.
My only mistake was doing it the day before April Fool's Day. Every birthday post is immediately overshadowed by whatever we do for April Fool's Day.
That's that's hilarious. Oh well, but still, happy anniversary for ZNN.
Yep.
And oh, I forgot to mention something. Oh, also, yes, I remember. Don't forget to look up for It's Called a Podcast Sweetheart on Spotify.
Yes, we will be releasing all of the previous episodes there in one big batch, and they should be up by the time this comes out.
Yeah, you want also to keep supporting this podcast. Also, make sure to listen on Spotify.
Hopefully, we don't disappoint.
Yeah, we want to keep improving for you guys.
Exactly. And yeah, I think that's about it for this time. Do you have anything else you'd like to say?
Well, I think for now, that will be pretty much it. Yes?
All right. So until next time, I'm Andy Lagopus.
And I'm Pinkstar.
And boom.